Excellencies, distinguished speakers, colleagues, and friends, good morning to all of you. I'm pleased to welcome you to this high-level meeting on the 2025 United Nations International Day of Cooperatives and to serve as your moderator of this opening segment on behalf of the Committee for the Promotion and Advancement of Cooperatives, COPAC. As you know, COPAC is an interagency committee of the UN system and cooperative movement. It is composed of key UN agencies, including the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Development, the International Labour Organization, Food and Agriculture Organization, the International Trade Center, and the United Nations Research Institute for Social Development, and also the International Cooperative Alliance, which is a non-UN member of COPAC. Now, COPAC purpose is to coordinate efforts in support of cooperatives and promote the integration of cooperatives into the development policy and practice. At the outset, allow me to thank the UN Federal Credit Union and the New York City Department of Small Business Services for partnering with COPAC to bring this event to life. This year, the International Day holds special significance as it falls within the International Year of Cooperatives. It is a unique moment to reflect, engage, and amplify the voice and impact of cooperatives across the world. COPAC is proud to support the UN General Assembly's call to advance this year's observance and to foster recognition of cooperatives' contributions to social development and social inclusion. Our theme today, driving inclusive and sustainable solutions for a better world, reminds us of what cooperatives do best: provide solutions. Whether in healthcare or housing, climate action, or the care economy, cooperatives respond to the needs by prioritizing the values of democracy, solidarity, participation, and shared prosperity. Throughout today's event, we will hear compelling examples of this in action. For example, we will hear about how financial cooperatives are mobilizing climate strategies, building financial resilience, and empowering communities. We will hear on how local governments can foster enabling ecosystems for worker cooperatives, offering concrete policy pathways for inclusive economic development. Now, these conversations are part of a broader effort within the UN system, including in the lead up to the second World Summit for Social Development that will take place in Doha next November, to recognize the cooperative model not as a niche, but as a proven, people-centered approach to sustainable development, that is a development that is socially, environmentally, and economically sustainable. And it is also encouraging to see growing support within the General Assembly of the United Nations. The latest resolution of the General Assembly on cooperatives had over 100 co-sponsors, making it one of the most widely supported resolutions at the United Nations. And the momentum about around the International Year of Cooperatives 2025 reflects that appetite for partnership, for participation, for solutions leading to peace and solidarity. And I'm confident that we will witness the same eagerness for promoting the values of cooperativism at the upcoming World Social Summit in Qatar. Now, without further ado, I have the pleasure of inviting our first speaker to take the floor, Mr. Charles Katoanga, Director of the DESA's Division for Inclusive Social Development, in order to provide his welcoming remarks before handing over the floor to the rest of the distinguished speakers for their own interventions. Charles, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kostas. Your Excellency, Ambassador Pierre Yondorj, Permanent Representative of Mongolia to the United Nations, His Excellency Yabesh Monari, Chargé d'Affaires and Deputy Permanent Representative of Kenya to the United Nations, Ms. Dionysia Gross, Commissioner of the New York City Department for Small Business Services, members of the cooperative movement, distinguished delegates, colleagues and friends. Good morning. It is my privilege to welcome you to this year's commemoration of the International Day of Cooperatives at the United Nations. Let me start by thanking Ambassador Yondorj and Ambassador Monari and the governments of Mongolia and Kenya for championing the work on cooperatives at the United Nations, including as main sponsors of the biennial General Assembly resolution on cooperatives in social development that Kostas referred to. Excellencies, your leadership and efforts are needed more than ever before. From persistent poverty and widening inequality to the climate emergency, geopolitical tensions, and economic instability, the world is facing a mix of complex and deeply interconnected challenges. The ambitions that were set by the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development are now at risk. With less than 5 years remaining, only a fraction of the measurable targets is on track to be achieved. The 2025 edition of the World Social Report, issued by the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, reveals some of the real challenges to social development that we currently face. Inequality has deepened. Social cohesion is fraying. Young people feel disillusioned and disconnected, and trust in institutions is declining. 30 years ago, at the World Summit for Social Development in Copenhagen, world leaders pledged to place people at the center of development and call for a global commitment to eradicate poverty, achieve full employment, and foster social integration. It was a bold vision for a just and inclusive world. Yet the richest 1% now owns more wealth than 95% of humanity. The urgency to act has never been greater. This is an important moment for cooperatives to demonstrate the unique value in accelerating social development. As democratically governed, people-centered organizations, cooperatives embody the very principles that the Copenhagen Declaration sought to advance: equity, participation, social justice, and human dignity. Across the globe, cooperatives are creating decent jobs, empowering women and youth, supporting smallholder farmers, expanding access to financial services, and delivering essential goods and services in underserved areas. In the words of Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in his message at the launch of the United Nations International Year of Cooperatives 2025, cooperatives, and I quote, demonstrate the importance of standing together to forge solutions to global challenges. End of quote. This is not just rhetoric. From rural villages to urban centers, cooperatives are proving that economic success and social solidarity can go hand in hand. I look forward to hearing the good work being done by the cooperatives represented here today. I also look forward to hearing about the efforts being made by local and national governments to ensure an enabling business environment for cooperatives that supports their growth and development, including access to affordable financing. Delegates, distinguished delegates and friends, let us seize this moment. To everyone gathered here today, in person and online, let us reaffirm our commitment to the values of the cooperative movement. As we accelerate our efforts to achieve the SDGs by 2030 and look towards the Second World Summit for Social Development in Doha, Qatar, later this November, let us together support and leverage the cooperative model to build a more just, inclusive, and sustainable world for generations to come. I thank you.
Thank you, Director Katuanga, for framing today's discussion. Your message reminds us all of the urgent global context and the vital role cooperatives can and should play in terms of promoting the vision of the Agenda 2030 Copenhagen, but also whatever comes out of the Second World Social Summit. I now invite the permanent representative of Mongolia to make his statement, His Excellency Ambassador Niam Jorg, permanent representative of Mongolia. Excellency, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Distinguished colleagues and ladies and gentlemen, it has been always a pleasure for us to participate in the annual events dedicated to the International Day of Cooperatives. I think this year's International Day event has its own distinctive features. First, it is the International Day of Cooperatives happening in the middle of the International Year of Cooperatives 2025. Secondly, it's taking place at a critical time of the Sustainable Development Goals implementation, as well as before and after many UN milestone conferences, including the Future Summit and Financing for Development Conference and World Social Summit in November. Thirdly, I thank the UNDCA and the Committee for the Promotion and Advancement of Cooperatives for organizing the 2025 International Day of Cooperatives in collaboration with the United Nations Federal Credit Union and the New York City Department of Small Business Services. No doubt that their opinions and cases will make our event more meaningful and down to earth. Distinguished colleagues, we, the advocates of the cooperatives, are proud that they are the most people-centered businesses employing 280 million people worldwide, representing 10% of the global workforce. Cooperatives provide livelihoods and income, but also help drive progress toward the SDGs. Last week, I participated in the FFD4 held in Sevilla. In Sevilla commitment, countries pledged to invest in productive sectors, the creation of decent jobs at the scale, and skills development to enable all people to benefit from inclusive, equitable, and sustainable economic growth. More specifically, the paragraph 21 states, we will promote entrepreneurship, including social entrepreneurship, particularly among women and youth, and facilitate the growth of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise cooperatives, and the social and solidarity economy, as well as inclusive and sustainable industrialization. Thus, in my intervention, I want to touch upon more about the role of financial cooperatives to support the Sustainable Development Goals and the accelerated progress towards achieving these goals from our regional and national perspectives. Let me begin with the Asia-Pacific region. The cooperative movement in the Asia-Pacific region is very dynamic, evolving force with strong presence in various sectors and growing potential to contribute to the region's social and economic development. Financial cooperatives in the region include diverse range of organizations like credit unions, cooperative banks, and savings and credit cooperative organizations, each with its own structure and focus. According to the International Cooperative Alliance Asia and Pacific, there are around 255,800 credit and banking cooperatives operating in the region across 28 countries. They contribute to socio-economic development mostly through providing access to savings, loans, and other financial services for millions to millions of people. And the biggest number, over 90% of credit banking cooperatives are concentrated in Southeast Asia. India being with the highest number, 170,000. Indonesia is almost 19,000. 19,000. Pakistan is 27,000. Nepal is almost 14,000. And more about 20 credit and banking cooperatives, mostly from Japan, India, South Korea, Republic of Korea, and Malaysia, are listed among the top 300 rankings of the World Cooperative Monitors 2023. We can learn a lot from notable regional cooperatives such as Sanasa in Sri Lanka, Bangkarakwet of Malaysia, Saraswat Bank, India, and Norinchukin Bank of Japan. More specifically, these cooperatives possess a wide range of innovative projects and initiatives that contribute to poverty reduction, financial inclusion, rural development, and local institution building, and overall to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. However, cooperatives in the Asia-Pacific region face challenges such as need for greater autonomy and independence, adapting to digital technologies, and ensuring regulatory frameworks support their operations. In Mongolia's case, savings and credit cooperatives play a vital role in providing financial services and promoting economic empowerment for the members in the country. They operate based on cooperative principles, including voluntary membership, democratic governance, financial sustainability, and social responsibility. The SACCOs are increasingly regulated under the law on savings and the credit cooperatives of Mongolia adopted in 2011. The Financial Regulatory Commission oversees and regulates the SACCOs, ensuring compliance with the relevant laws and prudential ratios. FRC also plays a key role in monitoring and mitigating risk by introducing criteria for appropriate operational ratios. At previous meeting, I have been informing about the cooperative development in Mongolia and underlining the close alignment of some activities within the framework of International Day of Cooperatives 2025 with the government of Mongolia's new cooperative welfare herder program launched in 2024. Under the new cooperative and welfare herder campaign, herders who become members of cooperatives will be given 5 trillion Mongolian in soft loans, the currency in soft loans until 2029 in collaboration with the commercial banks. And this year, 500 billion Mongolian currency in loans will be issued. Despite the big role and contributions of the savings and credit cooperatives in Mongolia into the socio-economic development, they also face various challenges such as limited access to technology, regulatory constraints, inadequate financial literacy, competition from other financial institutions, and fraud and governance issues, and economic vulnerability. In order to solidify the national cooperative movement, the government of Mongolia is supporting multilateral and bilateral cooperation and partnership with all relevant stakeholders, including private sector, civil society, and academia. For instance, we concluded a memorandum of understanding with the government of India last May. We believe that today's side event will give us more insights and examples of good practices from United Nations Federal Credit Union and other stakeholders, which will inspire us to increase the role of financial and cooperatives to support the Sustainable Development Goals. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador Niam Dorje. Mongolia's continued leadership and commitment to cooperativism represents always a model for us, the Friends of Cooperatives and the Social and Solidarity Economy. Thank you also for providing highlights about the situation of cooperativism in Asia, and especially the role of enabling environments, be it appropriate regulatory frameworks, financial incentives, and the role of alliances with the broader society. Thank you. I now give the floor for his remarks to His Excellency, Ambassador Yabesh Morani, Chargé d'Affaires at the Permanent Mission of Kenya to the United Nations. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Excellencies, distinguished guests, allow me to begin by thanking the Committee for the Promotion of Advancement of Cooperatives, COPAC, and all partners involved in organizing this important gathering to mark the International Day of Cooperatives. Among the founding principles of my country, Kenya, is the spirit of Harambee, meaning pulling together. The cooperative movement is the perfect expression of the spirit of Harambee, demonstrated by the commitment of cooperatives to the achievement of shared objectives through unity of purpose. Cooperatives in Kenya have remained a key driver of socio-economic development for more than 100 years now, with their positive impact reaching a vast majority of Kenyans, particularly in the agricultural sector. The reach of the cooperative movement in Kenya is clearly demonstrated by the fact that the cooperatives now control over about 45% of the country's gross domestic product, GDP, and 63% of Kenyans earn their livelihood from cooperative enterprise. Trends suggest that this influence continues to grow, especially in the provision of savings and credit services. These savings and credit cooperatives, also known as the SACCOs or credit unions, have mobilized savings of approximately $9 billion US. By pooling these resources, cooperatives provide much-needed financing to micro, small, and medium enterprises that might not otherwise access such a funding from traditional banks. The impact in Kenya and beyond is clear. Cooperatives help to create jobs, stimulate local businesses, build resilient economies, and retain wealth within the communities. As rightly noted in the Secretary General's report on cooperatives in social development, workers and members of cooperatives often attain higher socio and economic outcomes than the national average. Cooperatives also contribute to greater social inclusion and the eradication of poverty and hunger by improving outcomes for traditionally excluded groups such as women, youth, older persons, persons with disabilities, and indigenous peoples. Kenya is proud of its role alongside Mongolia and other partners in establishing 2025 as the International Year of Cooperatives. This year continues to afford us a golden opportunity to reflect on the unique ability of cooperatives to foster inclusive growth and strengthen community resilience, and makes this year's commemoration a truly a special moment. As we approach the high-level political forum on sustainable development in a week's time, and more significantly, the second World Summit on Social Development later this year, there is urgent need to continue shining a light on the contribution of cooperatives to our shared goals on sustainable growth. We urge all partners, member states and beyond, to continue advocating the critical contribution by the cooperatives towards social developments and to the need to create a suitable environment for their success, both nationally and internationally. Our efforts to build a better world must include cooperatives, because as the theme of the International Year of Cooperative reminds us, cooperative builds a better world. I thank you all.
Thank you, Ambassador Morani, for your statement and for Kenya's continued leadership and engagement in the area of cooperatives. and in advancing this agenda both nationally and at the multilateral level. Thank you. I'm now giving the floor for her presentation, to Ms. Dinishal Gross, Commissioner at the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Commissioner, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. My name is Dinishal Gross. I am the Commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. We love acronyms in New York City, so you'll see us referred to as SBS for short. I'm so happy to be here for this event, this workshop marking the International Day of Cooperatives. And I want to offer my thanks to COPAC and the United Nations Federal Credit Union in planning our participation in today's event. Thank you also to Andrew Alamati, Amin Lamrabat, Claudia Beatriz Altavaz, and the rest of the team from the UN for organizing this event with SBS. And thank you to all of the represented worker cooperatives in the room today, and to all who help uplift the work of cooperative development in New York City on a daily basis, including the members of my staff in the room today. It's an honor to share the dais this morning with Officer Papadakis, with UNDESA Director Charles Katanga, Ambassador Niam Dorg, and Ambassador Lokale. We're also joined today by 9 cooperatives who have been part of the Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative, and 9 organizations who have been part of that initiative for over a decade. Just a bit of background on the Department of Small Business Services. We're a local or New York City agency that works to unlock economic potential for New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs through neighborhood and workforce development, certifications to support businesses in growing through government contracting, and offering no-cost business services to help New Yorkers launch, operate, and grow small businesses to their maximum potential. We work very hard to connect New Yorkers to good jobs and create create strong small businesses. And we accomplish this through community-based strategies and direct customized assistance for businesses in this specific urban context. Any of New York's 8 million residents can connect with our services online. Our website is nyc.gov/SBS. We also operate a network of walk-in centers that provide workforce services and business solutions services, and they can receive one-on-one assistance at those locations. Worker cooperatives are a critical part of this work and achieving our mission. For the past 11 years, New York City has upheld worker cooperatives as an essential strategy to reduce inequality, and we have backed their success with custom support leveraged through our agency and the Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative partners. We are leading the nation here in New York City and at SBS by investing public dollars in worker cooperative development. In the last fiscal year alone, fiscal year 25, which just ended a few days ago, New York City invested $3.6 million in services to help incubate, launch, and support cooperatively owned businesses. And this investment has been stable and even increasing across multiple iterations of our city council, multiple mayoralties, and 5 SBS commissioners. As a result, partially of this support, New York City is home to the largest number of worker-owned cooperatives in the United States. With ever-evolving industries and a widening wealth gap, worker cooperatives present an innovative and community-minded approach for a different worker-owner paradigm, one that centers workers and enables economic sufficiency. Worker cooperatives provide pathways to entrepreneurship and even government contracting, especially for those who may be justice impacted or New Yorkers who are acclimating to English, to help them own a business that uses their skills and others that they're developing collectively to help them generate income that is essential to personal and family survival in our expensive city and build community wealth. And historically, there have been few government-supported avenues to make this type of economic progress. In its current iteration, the City of New York's Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative strengthens and empowers the existing ecosystem of cooperative development with tools, best practices, and resources for continued success. And I'm deeply thankful that we're able to continue raising the profile of worker cooperatives and the social and solidarity economy through meaningful discussion and learning today. It is wonderful to both understand and share this work in an international context. So thank you to the United Nations for declaring 2025 as the Year of Worker Cooperatives, for establishing this day, and for allowing SBS and our work to be part of this discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner Gross, for that powerful reminder of how cities, not only countries, cities like New York can be true incubators, as you said, of innovation through cooperative enterprises. Your insights on the importance of local ecosystems are very important and set the stage, I believe, for the discussions and the rest of the day. Thank you, Commissioner. I would like to thank all the distinguished speakers for setting the scene for today's conversations. We have heard very compelling remarks, underscoring the centrality of cooperatives to sustainable and inclusive development in spite, or I would say even because of the challenging context within which we are all operating. And second, the long-standing commitment of several member states, including Mongolia and Kenya, which continue to champion cooperativism. And of course, we heard about the important role of cities and local governments like New York in creating an enabling environment for cooperative action. Now, thank you again all for your participation in this opening segment. I would like to ask the panelists of the next panel to move now to the podium while we leave this podium. Thank you. Thank you again. Great. So we will continue with today's program with two panels and one speech that will reflect on the breadth and the depth of the cooperative model, from finance to climate, from care to family farming cooperatives, and how these experiences can inform our collective work, including in the lead up to the World Social Summit and beyond. For our first panel, I call on the moderator, Emma Gordon, first Vice President of the Global Impact and Inclusion and Executive Director of the United Nations Federal Credit Union, and also our three speakers who will intervene online. I hope we have already the connection. Is it okay? Yes, thank you. Emma, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is our privilege for the United Nations Federal Credit Union to join you in celebrating this UN International Day of Cooperatives. We are honored to be a part of today's program alongside a remarkable group of global credit union leaders. We also want to extend our special thanks to the missions both of Mongolia and to Kenya for their leadership in the adoption of this International Year of Cooperatives, and to the UN Department of Economic Social Affairs and the team for bringing us together today. In 2018, UNFCU established the United in Sustainability Network for the credit union industry, right here at the UN headquarters. And what began as a summit has become a growing platform now being supported by over 200 credit unions and their leagues focused on localizing the Sustainable Development Goals in communities worldwide. And for us, sustainability is not a separate initiative. It is central to who we are as cooperatives. At UNFCU, it reflects our service mission and commitment to economic resilience, climate action, and social inclusion. So today I'm really honored to be moderating a conversation with several of my peers, credit union leaders who are based in Canada and Ireland and in Latin America, who are each in their own right doing amazing and innovative work that's really relevant to our times and rooted in community impact, very much symbolizing the work that you heard of earlier today. I'd like to ask our panelists to hopefully come on screen and introduce themselves. If you can, wonderful. Allison, David, and Tom. Great. Allison, I'll ask you to introduce yourself first, please.
Sure, thank you, Emma. Hi, everyone. I'm Allison. I'm the Director of Climate Strategy and Performance at Van City. Van City is a credit union based on the west coast of Canada in Vancouver, and we serve the Lower Mainland and Vancouver Island. We have about 570,000 members and just over, I should say, 28 billion in assets.
Thank you, Allison. David?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody from Dublin, Ireland. David McCauley is my name. I am my day job is I'm a CEO of the Nor Credit Union, which actually is the very first credit union in Ireland, Ireland's oldest credit union. And I'm also the treasurer of the Irish League of Credit Unions. So Ireland is unique in terms of credit unions in Europe in that we have the highest level of member penetration. Over 7% of the population of Ireland are members of credit unions. Credit unions are located all over the country, both in the Republic of Ireland and also in Northern Ireland. We have been voted the most reputable brands for the last 2 years. And also for the last 10 years, we have been voted as most #1 for customer excellence in Ireland. So we're highly trusted as financial cooperatives, but our remit goes well beyond just providing financial services. We are fundamental to our communities which we serve. We are fundamental to our members. Our own tagline here in the Nor Credit Union is "Do more with the Nor," and that's a statement of empowerment. So we're about empowering our members and by extension then empowering our communities. And we see sustainability has gone beyond just financial sustainability into the whole area of environmental sustainability at a local level.
Thank you, David. Tom?
Good morning, everyone. Hello, Iman. Thank you for the opportunity to join you this morning. My name is Tom Belekovich. I am the Director of Member Services at the World Council of Credit Unions. The World Council is a global network of national and regional associations and industry partners that brings together more than 100 organizations across 80 countries around the world. And my efforts at WOCU are focused primarily on finding new and innovative ways to connect the dots and bring together our global financial cooperative system in new collaboration.
Thank you so much, Tom. So Allison, I will start with you. Your work at Vancity is widely recognized, especially as one of the few financial institutions that are still actively committed to the Net Zero Banking Alliance. And you've shared with us in the past of how Vancity has been embedding impact into every role across the organization, and that you're working on a climate transition plan, deepening work with Indigenous communities, and rolling out a newcomer strategy that reflects a bold vision for inclusion. We'd love to hear more on how Vancity is operationalizing climate and social justice commitments, particularly at this time when some are stepping back. I'll turn it over to you, Allison.
Thanks very much, Ima. And thanks again for having me today. It's such a special day. And everyone at Vancity is, really proud to be a cooperative and be part of this, larger group of cooperatives. And yeah, to really center our members and communities in our work. So as Ima said, I'm going to talk a little bit about our work to embed sustainability, but let's start with some context. It's been a bit of a year, right? Year and a half, globally, geopolitically. And if you work in sustainability, it's been quite a year or more. And as you touched on there, Ima, particularly challenging. And it's particularly challenging around things like the global effort to fight climate change. And we've definitely seen a rowing back on climate action. And I think as the remarks were touched on earlier, increasing inequality more broadly. And within that context, it's been a challenging couple years for our organization as well. When we posted our 2023 financial results in early 2024, it was our first financial loss in a long time. And while we're underpinned by strong capital reserves, it really forced Vancity as an organization to look at everything we do and how we do it. And it was a tough time, and we really needed a refreshed approach going forward. Now, given that external environment that I touched on and that challenging internal environment, it was really a pivotal moment when it comes to sustainability or impact, as we call it at Vancity. We've long been committed to this space, but we were in that moment of like, what is this going to look like going forward? And I'm really happy that at that reflection point, Vancity looked at its values, its vision, the fact that it is a cooperative. We looked at what our members need. Really, we exist, right, for the sole purpose of serving our members and their communities. And we really leaned in on impact and made it a critical focus of our strategy going forward. So we launched our new strategy at the end of 2024 with 5 pillars. And one of those pillars is to embed impact into everything we do. So being really clear, impact is not something that's just led by the impact strategy team, which I sit on and help to lead, but it is all of our responsibility. And it's something we have to think about in the context of the products and services that we provide, the grants that we do, how we operate, how we do lending, really just thread it through everything. We also, in that strategy, committed to our 4 areas of impact, so climate, equity and reconciliation, affordable housing, and cooperatives and community. And those are really guided by what our members have told us they feel Vancity should focus on. Our leaders played a really critical role in that process, helping to set those 5 pillars, and then also working to ensure that we've got, scorecards and processes that support that work to embed impact. And I'm happy to say, we're still pretty early days. We're about, 6 months into this 3-year strategy, but we've really seen quick traction on new impact initiatives that we're trying to roll out. So Ima, you mentioned in the opening there, we're doing some work around newcomers. We've actually just launched today our refreshed offer for newcomers to Canada. I think it's soft launching today. Maybe, I haven't had a chance, or it's early this morning here, to check the website and see if it's up yet. But we have released a new offer for newcomers, and we worked with our settlement agency partners in doing that. So we offer rebates on new checking accounts, credit card in Canada that does not require Canadian credit history, intro savings rates, and we actually support people who are newcomers to Canada to get their credentials recognized here in Canada, and support with lending to help with that. And within our newcomers program, we are offering specific additional supports for refugees to Canada who are newcomers to Canada that way, including free accounts for a number of years, as well as financial literacy supports. Another example where we've seen some good traction is our work on climate. So we have a really ambitious goal of reaching net zero emissions by 2040. And as part of this refreshed strategy, we actually had our lines of business commit to really ambitious goals around engaging our members on climate action. I'm talking thousands of conversations that we've committed to with members. And so far, we're tracking really well. And we've seen great uptake on our climate products and services and complementary offers that we give our members, as well as really strong engagement in helping us to build a climate transition plan that we're working on right now. So I hope through those examples, you can see how we're driving impact on SDGs like SDG 10, reduce inequality, SDG 13, climate action, actually through the day-to-day business that we do. And I think that's really what a cooperative does and what we do really well.
Thank you, Allison. I love so many things about this model. The fact that it is member-driven by what members need, and the fact that impact is the responsibility of everyone in the organization. I think it really uplifts an amazing model for all of us. So thank you so much for sharing. And David, I'll turn it to you. Your work in Ireland is a leading example of the ways that credit unions really can localize the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs as we affectionately call them. Donor Credit Union has brought together residents, you've shared with us, of all ages, to build sustainable communities, and we're excited to hear more about that. Your approach has definitely been inclusive, it's been grassroots, and it also includes a measurement framework that we'd love to hear a little bit more about. So with that, I'll ask you to tell us more about how these partnerships and your model resonates. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Again, thank you for having me today. Yes, Donor is, we're a lot smaller credit union than Van City, and we'll be based in Dublin's inner city area, traditional lower middle class, working class community that's faced with a lot of challenges, where our members would traditionally, have now become probably asset rich while they're cash poor. Also, we have an influx of new orders and new communities. So much so, we actually have 87 different nationalities as members of our credit union here. So we're a very inclusive and diverse credit union, and that's very, very welcome, all those communities. In terms of the, because of our unique trusted position, in 2020, the credit union here, the Donor Credit Union, undertook kind of a review and an evaluation of what our purpose is. Financially, we were very strong. Financially, we've been very successful. We were growing our loan book, growing our membership. We really took time out just to ask ourselves what we are. And so we were the very first credit union to undertake a social impact study. And that social impact study really focused our mind on what we are as a credit union. And they were much more than just merely a financial cooperative. In fact, we're an empower of our community. And that led us to reevaluate our strategy. And amongst what we focus our strategy really around engagement and activation of our members. So It wasn't to be the biggest credit union here in Ireland. It certainly wasn't even to be the biggest credit union in Dublin. It was to be the most effective for our members. So three deliverables have come out of that. One of those was that we basically broadened our strategy to incorporate collaboration and ESG, sustainable development goals, into our strategy. With that, we were able to encourage the Irish League of Credit Unions to embrace the whole concept of sustainable development goals. So much so that in 2023, the Irish League of Credit Unions was recognised as a Sustainable Development Goal champion by the Irish government, and now has the distinction and recognition of being a Sustainable Development Goal ambassador, which is great for the financial cooperative here in Ireland. The second kind of fallout of what we did was we recognised as a financial cooperative that the most impactful way in terms of our social impact and our financial impact for our members was really focusing on our local community and really focusing on those members who are, lived or worked within the geographic confines of the common bond. Now that posed challenges for us in terms of, a growing cost base, increased investments. So we've undertaken an approach, a strategic approach to collaboration. So much so now we've got 28 credit unions all participating in a partnership of equals, whereby they're all regarded as being involved in this collaboration. And that's rolling out operational efficiencies, addressing and reducing the duplicated costs that we were incurring. And it makes us a more effective proposition for our members. And also we've coalesced around the idea of sustainable development goals and rolling them out in terms of what we want to do for our communities. We're making our offices, our branches more accessible to the wider range of communities, to people who traditionally would not be encouraged into financial enterprise or financial businesses. And that would include people who have, not just diverse needs, but also potentially medical needs or stuff like that. And then the third deliverable, which we've really focused on, is this whole area that you've mentioned there, a sustainable development community. So sustainable development community is kind of a new concept. But what it is leveraging off the trust, the strong governance, the financial controls, and the goodwill of the credit union. We, alongside residents, local sports organisations, local community groups, and existing groups who are already in the environmental space, are working together to make this part of inner city Dublin more livable, more breathable, and a more sociable location for our members. And we're doing that through a multitude of different projects. Some of them are very, very basic, such as, tidy towns, litter pick. We organise that with our local schools. Once every couple of weeks, we go out. And that has the effect of, showing people that there's people in the community who are actually, care about their community and are doing things for their community. The other thing that we've actually done here as a credit union is, we've decided to live this as well. So we've moved now to make our building completely, our own premises here, completely carbon neutral. So much so now that we actually generate more electricity than we actually use. So we're in the process now of a very ambitious project to actually look at the feasibility of setting up an energy cooperative, which will basically address fuel poverty in the local community, hopefully retain and recircle and recycle excess energy that's generated in community buildings here back into community organisations or back amongst the members of the community here who probably struggle with bills and stuff like that. This is basically a coalition of partners, a coalition of community groups, a coalition of activists. We have to say we're being encouraged along the way. The Irish government now has, recognised that credit unions potentially have because of our standing in the communities, potentially are a great vehicle in which to deliver these local community initiatives. So we're excited by this proposition. I hope to be speaking to you in 2 or 3 more years to say we've moved on a lot more. But this is a challenging proposition, but we're addressing needs at a local level, and so far so good. It's working for us.
Thank you, David. That is such a terrific example of really localizing the SDGs. I hope that we can talk more and more in the future about sustainable development communities. I love that, and I'm looking forward to using your model. Hopefully, we'll see that in more places. Thank you so much for sharing. With that, I'll turn to Tom. Tom, the World Council of Credit Unions plays such a unique role in unifying the movement across regions. And you've shared that this is a great inflection point for the organization, refocusing its work on elevating member voices and using data storytelling and global cooperation. Personally, I'm excited to see you next week with all of the other credit unions in Stockholm, where we'll be gathered. But thank you so much for being that space for us where we can gather and share notes and strategize together about the important cooperative models that we're all a part of. We're really especially excited to hear about your upcoming global report. And we'd be excited to hear more about the new chapter for WOCU. So turn it over to you, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ima, and hello everyone, and thank you for the plug for our conference. We're all really excited to come together with our global credit union family next week in Stockholm, Sweden. So, and thank you to the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs and our friends at the United Nations Federal Credit Union for this great opportunity to be part of this special event, so celebrating our cooperative difference. As I mentioned in my introduction, the World Council of Credit Unions represents a global network of national and regional associations that are working every day to expand opportunity and deepen resilience and better serve their members, especially in the communities that are most often left behind. And we're seeing how this work has become even more important in recent years. We're living, as several have noted, through a time of rapid geopolitical and economic change. And more than ever, this resilience and inclusion and cooperation are not just ideals, they're true necessities for all of us. So, at the World Council specifically, we've felt the impact of these shifting global priorities. And we've lost about half of our development team since the beginning of this year as a result to the changes in some of those priorities. And while that development assistance is evolving, we see really that the cooperative movement's strength has always come from within. And for me personally, cooperation is the antidote to the forces of division around us. We are a global force for good that connects communities and countries through shared purpose. So at WOCU, we've had to adjust, and we're refocusing our energy on what we see as our greatest strength, this global cooperative network. More than 100 member organizations, 80 countries, where real knowledge and innovation and peer support happens. For us, this cooperation isn't just a principle, it's really part of our strategy, and it's how we build resilience. We stay rooted in our community needs and how we respond to the global uncertainty with a shared approach to solutions. So first and foremost, WOCU is working to defend and to support our movement through international advocacy and ensuring that the policies reflect the proportional needs of credit unions and financial cooperatives. For us, proportionality isn't just a regulatory issue, it's a social justice issue. And this is because when small community-based financial institutions are held to those same regulatory standards as multinational banks, it really creates an uneven playing field. And the result of that is fewer resources for financial inclusion, higher compliance burdens on institutions that serve the underserved, and ultimately fewer people gaining access to fair, affordable financial services. So proportionality for us means recognizing that different institutions serve different communities with different risks and capacities. And it's about tailoring those regulatory frameworks so that they can protect consumers without sidelining these very institutions that serve low-income populations in rural areas and women and marginalized groups. And by ensuring proportionate regulation, we're helping to maintain a diverse financial ecosystem, one that includes cooperative models that are designed to empower and not exploit. So just a few weeks ago, we issued a formal call to action to the G20 South African presidency, and encouraging them to recognize cooperatives as essential institutions in the global push for financial inclusion. We asked them to include language in the 2025 G20 Leaders Declaration that supports regulations enabling cooperative growth, the kind of proportional, community-driven framework that allows credit unions to expand access responsibly, especially for underserved populations. And so our message to the G20 and other international bodies is very simple. If you want to reach those who are excluded, partner with those that are already doing the work, and that means cooperatives. And we also know that if we want to strengthen our movement, we need better data. And that's why at World Council, we're launching a global data initiative, which will expand upon our annual statistical report and create a more complete picture of how credit unions are serving their communities. Our goal in this effort is to collect deeper insights, not just about financial performance, but also about how membership and demographics and access and impact. And it's this kind of information that's really critical for making smart decisions and telling our story effectively and ultimately advocating for the policies that reflect our value. We see cooperatives create real impact, but we need the data to show that. And later this year, I'm very excited that we'll be releasing an expanded annual statistical report with some of these new insights. But this is really just the beginning of a broader effort at World Council to tell the story of financial cooperatives' impact in more human terms. Another key piece of this is our members around the world really inspire us every day. They're not isolated stories. They are part of a global movement that is adapting to new challenges with real creativity and solidarity. In Africa, for example, we've partnered with ACOSCA, the African Confederation of Savings and Credit Associations, to improve data capacity and coordination across their affiliated national associations. And just last month, ACOSCA hosted a regulators roundtable in Ethiopia that brought together public and private sector leaders to explore how regulatory environments can really better support financial cooperatives in the communities that they serve. We're especially encouraged by the strong endorsement that this collaboration received from those participating regulators, and many of whom have now expressed a clear commitment to supporting our efforts. And for us, the recognition is of this critical role that data and coordination play in strengthening financial inclusion is really a powerful signal that public-private cooperation is moving in the right direction. We see in Brazil other examples of impressive innovation through an initiative called Bureau Co-op, which is a cooperatively owned data platform that is working to strengthen transparency across the system. And it's a great example of shared infrastructure that has been built out by financial cooperatives in cooperation with the Central Bank of Brazil. And it's really a reminder of how much we can achieve when we work together. Ultimately, we see that spirit of collaboration is reflected in the leadership at the Central Bank of Brazil, which has actively promoted financial cooperatives as a tool to advance the Sustainable Development Goals. And it's through initiatives like Agenda BC, which focuses on financial inclusion, sustainability, and innovation, that the Central Bank of Brazil has recognized cooperatives as key partners in building a more inclusive and resilient financial system, particularly in those underserved regions of the country. So for us at WOCU, we believe financial cooperatives are already delivering on the promise of inclusive and sustainable development, but we know that we can do even more with the right visibility and support. So my message on the International Day of Cooperatives is really this, that we must put cooperatives at the center of our global strategies. We must recognize our unique role in the financial access and resilience and community empowerment. And ultimately, really, we must work together across sectors and across borders to make sure that our cooperatives have what they need to grow. So thank you so much for the opportunity to join you today and to share a few insights on some of the work that we're doing at World Council.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. And those were incredible examples from around the world. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. And thank you for reminding us that financial inclusion is at the heart of what we do, that there's a commitment to the evergreen ideals that we all have around cooperatives, that resilience is important, that a commitment to data is important, but most of all, that working together is what we are all about, and everyone has provided those examples today. So as we go to close, we have a quick lightning round, so to speak. I'll just ask our panelists to share with us what's one key element that is particularly unique to the credit union model that helps to build effective partnerships for the SDGs and the communities. I'll ask David to answer that really briefly, and then Allison.
I'll say the word that we'd use is engagement. Credit unions have a unique relevance and unique identity, unique connection with our members and with their communities, and we need to work on that engagement. And this avenue of being seen to be at the forefront of sustainable development goals resonates so much with young people. It resonates with potential new members, and it really places, and we've experienced this, and we're proof positive that this works, that this can actually deliver for the credit union, make the credit union itself a more sustainable business as well. So engagement is the word, and just reaching out there and being seen and to embrace this and actually to deliver it.
Thanks, David. Allison?
Sure. I think a real key element is our focus on shared value, right? It's our business model and what we do. And so we bring this to partnerships. And we build partnerships that are absolutely aligned with the SDGs, but also responsive to local needs and lived experiences. And we really work to understand what our partners need to deliver, and how understand where those shared goals are and what we can do together.
Thank you so much. And Tom, I'll just ask you, since we've run out of time, tell me one word that symbolizes what does sustainability mean for credit unions. Tom?
Oh my gosh, one word. For me, it is resilience. Mm-hmm. I think that resilience is key for our ability to endure economic shocks, to support communities over time, and to maintain our long-term relevance while staying true to our cooperative values.
Thank you so much, Tom. And in these remaining seconds, I'll just again thank our panelists so much. These reflections were really, really, really helpful and incredible this morning. At UNFCU, we continue to work closely with our members and our partners to build financial well-being and to localize the Sustainable Development Goals. I do have to do a quick plug that on the 18th and 19th of November this year in Montreal, Canada, we will host our first international, but not first at all, United in Sustainability Summit. We'd invite all of you to join us either virtually or in person, where many, many credit unions and our credit union partners will gather and share solutions and insights on climate resiliency, economic empowerment, and sustainable development. So definitely check out more at uisnetwork.org. I do want to say thank you so much on behalf of my colleagues who are here in the room and who are not here in the room. Also on behalf of our board, our CEO and President, Pamela Agnon, our Executive Vice President and Global Sustainability Program sponsor, Prasad Sarpanini, who is in the room. Thank you so much. Our global staff and our UIS community and our partners and panelists. Thank you. Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you. Thank you, Ima. May I invite the panelists of the second panel to join the podium, or yes?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. It's an honor to be here on representing the City of New York and representing the Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative. First, I'd like to say thank you for all of the opening remarks that we've heard from the excellencies and representatives. Green. Can you hear me now? Yeah? Okay, better. Great. So as I was saying, it's an honor to be here representing the City of New York and the Department of Small Business Services and the Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative. I first want to say thank you to our opening speakers, excellencies, for setting the floor, setting the stage for today's conversation about cooperativism within the International Year of Cooperatives and celebrating the International Day of Cooperatives. I would also like to thank our panelists from the United Nations Federal Credit Union, and I'd also like to thank the UN Department of Social and Economic Affairs and the Committee on Promotion and Advancement of Cooperatives for helping set up this event and collaborating to make this day happen. So first I'd like to introduce myself. I'm the Executive Director, I'm Kobe Coulter, Executive Director of Business Programs at the New York City Department of Small Business Services. I oversee a set of programs that support entrepreneurs in launching and growing their businesses here in New York City with a particular focus, many of our programs have a particular focus on creating equitable pathways to business ownership. One of these programs, which we'll be discussing today, is the Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative, which I have overseen for the past 5 years. So before we begin, I would also like to provide a quick agenda for our panel today. I will say a few opening words to set the stage of the conversation. I'll introduce our panelists. I'll provide a brief presentation on what the Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative is and what some of the accomplishments that we've had over the past 10 years. Then I will open it up to the questions for our panelists, and if we have time, we'll also open up to the audience for Q&A. All right, so today we're here to talk about worker cooperatives, businesses that are both owned and controlled by their workers. And to put this in some economic context, today in the US, income inequality is at an all-time high and only expected to increase. According to a recent Congressional Budget Office report, the top 10% of earners have 69% share of all wealth, while the share held by families in the bottom 50% is only 3%. The worker cooperative model is a model that can help combat wealth inequality in two main ways. There are many others, but there's two main ways. One is that worker cooperatives generally have smaller employee income ratios than their corporate counterparts, where average employee income ratios for corporations can be anywhere from 300 to 1 or higher, meaning CEOs are earning 300 times more than their employees, and worker cooperatives typically have ratios at or below 10 to 1, which is decided upon by the worker owners. Two, the worker cooperative model opens up the opportunity to business ownership to more people by spreading risk across all owners. This is especially beneficial to marginalized and low-income communities. A tertiary benefits to worker cooperatives are that it is a human-centered model. These are businesses that are usually mission-driven and organizing to solve societal problems, often being at the center of workers' rights, social justice, and mutual aid organizing, as well as having sustainable practices. For these reasons and their positive impacts, New York City has invested in the development of worker-owned businesses through our Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative. Our panel today will share lessons learned from the initiative and provide best practices for how municipalities can support the development of worker cooperatives. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists. First, I will be introducing Antu Nguyen, who is the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Democracy at Work Institute, where she leads and supports innovations, integrating worker ownership at scale, and serves as the co-backbone for the Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative. Through this role, she provides consulting, education, and technical assistance to emerging worker cooperatives and developers. We also have Christine Curella, who is the founder of Venture for Workers, where she collaborates with business, labor, and community leaders to build ventures that redistribute wealth and power to workers, including Organizing Money and Hive. She is the former senior policy advisor to New York City's deputy mayor for strategic policy initiatives, where she has designed and operationalized programs to address the racial wealth gap, including advancing worker and community ownership, addressing predatory lending, and accelerating high road and minority-owned businesses to build quality jobs. She's also the board president of the Democracy at Work Institute. Unfortunately, our third panelist, Martha Montefiore, was not feeling well. So in her place, we have Ricardo Lopez, who is the executive assistant of compliance and compliance manager for Cooperative Home Care Associates in the corporate compliance officer overseeing regulations in home care. Just a little background on the Cooperative Home Care Associates. They're one of the longest running cooperatives here in New York City and the largest worker cooperative in the United States. So those are our panelists. We'll start a conversation in a few minutes, but I wanted to give an introduction into what the Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative is. Next slide, please. Thanks. There we go. So the WCBDI, which I'll be referring to moving forward, is started in 2015, so it's been 10 years in operation. It's been a collaborative initiative between New York City Council and the New York City Department of Small Business Services to support and empower an ecosystem of 13 nonprofit organizations developing worker cooperatives in New York City. Worker cooperatives, as you've heard, give New Yorkers the opportunity to co-own a business, create sustainable and dignified jobs while developing community wealth. This is particularly important tool for people who lack access to traditional business ownership, as I mentioned before. The initiative supports the incubation, creation, and conversion of worker-owned businesses through technical support, educational services, and unique financing models that are particularly driven for the co-op model. And it is, as our Commissioner Diana Shaw-Gross mentioned, is the largest municipally supported initiative in the US that is helping to develop worker-owned businesses. Next slide. So some successes over the past 10 years. The initiative has helped to support over 1,000 businesses. So while the initiative does work to develop worker-owned businesses, there's a larger ecosystem that the initiative supports that includes organizations providing technical assistance and other community-based organizations that are looking to support worker-owned businesses. The majority of our worker owners in New York City are women, immigrants, and or people of color. The top 3 industries in New York City's worker cooperatives are cleaning services, professional services, and manufacturing. This has opened up to create unique models of cooperativism, including the first franchise cooperative, the Brightly Cleaning Cooperative, and also, as our commissioner mentioned, has created the pathway to having the most concentrated number of worker-owned businesses in any city in the country. And to the right here, you'll see some key metrics where we've helped to support the development of 141 active worker cooperatives that are currently operating. 1,300 plus jobs created, 28,000 plus educational services delivered, and 16,000 technical services delivered. So now that you have that context of what WCBDI is, I will now flip it over to our panelists who can provide their unique perspectives on what this initiative has accomplished over the past 10 years, but also what has it contributed to the solidarity economy, social and solidarity economy here in New York City. So the first question is, why should municipalities invest resources in development of worker cooperatives? The first response will be from Ricardo.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity. So, why should municipalities invest in development of worker cooperatives? Ultimately, worker cooperatives are built with the community in mind, designed to uplift people who are often excluded from traditional business ownership. For example, in CHCA, CHCA's board includes 8 elected home care workers and have a voice in the direction of the organization. When we invest in our workforce, we're investing in the health and strengthening of our communities, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because it's the cooperative model, consistently delivering high quality outcomes for everyone involved. In this sector where the turnover is usually between 60 and 70%, CHCA has historically maintained a turnover of about 20%. This means clients receiving dedicated care from caregivers for years.
Thank you. Thank you. Next response from Antu.
Yes, thank you, Kobe. So with regards to why municipalities should invest resources to worker ownership, worker cooperatives particularly, I see this as a combination of legacy preservation and also economic opportunity, creating new opportunities. So in New York City, 44% at minimum of the workforce is made up of foreign-born workers. At the same time, at the national level, 40% of business owners are baby boomers. The youngest baby boomers are going to be retiring within 5 years in 2030. This presents an enormous wealth transfer that's happening and also incredible opportunities for creating wealth building for new communities, newcomers, as well as for existing businesses in terms of preserving what they've created and what is often possible in driving the economic engine of a place like New York City. And New York City is a laboratory in many ways for what's possible for municipalities across the country and across the world in terms of the resources, the opportunities, and especially the challenges. So in investing in worker ownership, New York City is creating an example of what it might look like to try to create a more equitable economy, especially in perhaps the most inequitable city in the world, on how to create a tide that lifts up all boats.
Thank you. And Christine?
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to first start with celebrating really the leadership of the team in advancing worker ownership and giving a bit of a context. We have this beacon of city staff and initiatives, and the context for municipal policy and economic development to often is not aligned with social justice. And as Kobe pointed out, particularly in this country, policy has enabled a winner-take-all model of economic development. From my work here in New York City and now with cities across the country, you can see how that model, not only doesn't it work for communities, it doesn't work for growth and competitiveness. I just want to give that picture just to showcase the value of worker co-ops. Too often our tools are things like tax incentives that go to investor-owned businesses. Then cities are often struggling to figure out how to create dignified working conditions, taking too few public resources to manage a workforce in New York City of over 4 million workers. That's really inefficient. City government of staff of 40 or even full agencies of 400 are inefficient for that goal. And then downstream, we see the pernicious impacts of low incomes in communities and the inability for family self-sufficiency. Worker co-ops rewire that model. They offer us the opportunity to build capacity amongst workers to empower and advocate for their own dignity, to align with the sort of inherent growth that's possible with real businesses serving real communities like CHCA and so many other worker co-ops represented today. So worker co-ops offer us an alternative to, again, a winner-take-all economic system. It makes so much policy sense to think about how we can accelerate that model. Really proud to lift up how WCBDI is an example for how other municipalities can continue to foreground human-centered economic development.
Thank you. Thank you all for such well-rounded responses. The next question is, WCBDI, as I mentioned, is the largest municipally supported effort in the U.S. to develop worker cooperatives. And now in its 10th year, there have been many lessons learned about successfully developing cooperatives in a complex city like New York. What are some key successes of this initiative that other municipalities should consider adopting? And the first response will be from Antu.
So there's two elements that I think I'd like to lift up from the New York City example that could serve as a template for other cities. One is what was launched under the previous administration in the deputy mayor's office when Christine was there, which was the Owner to Owners program. It was a hotline that ran from 2020 to 2021. It was launched during the COVID crisis, and it served as a touch point for business owners throughout New York City to learn more about succession planning and specifically worker ownership as a succession planning strategy. This campaign ran for 1 year with 6 months direct outreach. And during that time period, reached 5 million impressions, 28,000 business owners who directly interacted with the campaign itself, and led to 31 businesses, a small sum, but granted this was a very short period of time, that ended up entering the process to convert to worker ownership. So I think it's very valuable to look at what is possible even with a pilot, something that was small, and the hunger out there for learning about what to do with businesses, especially with retiring business owners. I think 75% of U.S. business owners are looking for exit strategies within the next 10 years, but very little know that worker ownership is even a possibility. So this municipally funded initiative and hotline did a lot to educate business owners in New York City, and hopefully in the future will be replicated about what can be possible to preserve legacy businesses. The second element that I'd like to lift up is the emphasis that WCBDI has in serving the needs of excluded workers who are starting enterprises. And by excluded workers, I mean people who have been historically left out of our economic engine. This might be people who are formerly incarcerated. This might mean people who are brand new to the workforce, and also immigrant workers who have various barriers to entrepreneurship. New York City has done, through WCBDI, has done in my opinion, an exceptional effort in developing specifically immigrant-led, formerly incarcerated-led businesses. One of the organizations one of our partners here, Urban Upbound, has specifically worked on worker cooperative development within public housing and focusing on anti-recidivism. We have I think over 70% of worker owners in New York City are women and women immigrants specifically in areas that are historically pink collar, low wage, high turnover industries, including cleaning, home care, and janitorial services. So I think that's where we've really been able to be that tide lifting up boats.
Thank you. Christine, next response.
Excellent. Thank you. Great to build on what Antu just shared. I think, when I think about what has been critical for WCBDI or from WCBDI for policymakers is that it's been really a space for incubation and investing, a sort of testing spot, if you will, to understand what are the most effective ways that we can build worker-owned businesses, what are the unique ways that we can serve really hard to reach and hard to serve communities, and how can policy think and respond to that to help scale? And so Antu mentioned one of the models where I'm quite proud of, the Owner to Owners initiative, where we very quickly stood up, I think it was in 3 weeks, a citywide hotline because of the infrastructure that technical assistants and worker owners themselves had been able to create. So I think that's a really interesting model. How do we scale up community capacity? Similarly, with the support of the working world, that had been focusing really closely on manufacturing businesses, we were able to create a citywide initiative that served industrial corridors across the city, indeed on the far edges of New York City, because we had that capacity and that rooted model. And the other real success of WCBDI, I think, is really standing up businesses that are alternatives to the status quo. So I really want to amplify what Ricardo mentioned. In home care, one of the industries that has notoriously, poorly served workers, poorly served clients, unfortunately, we have the model that is CHCA that says another form of business is possible. And I think that's really been critical for our policy imagination and, frankly, I think our culture and norms about what our economy should look like. Excluded workers, others, what does it mean for workers to have voice, agency, and ownership in this city? It's something I hope we'll continue to expand upon.
Thank you. And Ricardo, last response.
So yes, the key success of our cooperative is the ability to work with other cooperators, not just to learn from each other, but to lean on each other for resources. While we are currently working with ICA Group, which is an experienced cooperative developer, they provide services like financial consultation, strategic planning, marketing, and operational research. Their support has been instrumental in our day-to-day operations. While we are celebrating 40 years this year, actually, this wouldn't be possible without the support of other cooperatives and other organizations like SBS and PHI.
Thank you. And our last question is, WCBDI was created to create pathways of economic empowerment for New York City's underserved communities, as we've already heard countless of examples from our panelists. How has the worker cooperative model supported this mission in New York City, and how has it supported the broader social solidarity economy movement in New York City? And the first response will be from Christine.
I'll say I think 3 things I observe from my perch. One, it's given workers the chance to imagine what's possible in our economy. Again, in the face of so many systems that look to workers not as the drivers, owners, and visionaries in the workplace. It's forged folks who understand how to create value, how to live into their voice. And I think that's been, I've observed how that shaped the labor movement, our minority and women-owned business programs, to really understand workers aren't at the sidelines. They're central to how we build sustainable businesses. I think there are really clear ways, secondly, that worker co-ops have shown us how finance can move differently. I was really inspired to hear about the credit union panel earlier, certainly as financial cooperatives, and thinking about how capital moves in business, again, against the backdrop of venture capital and private equity and all of these things that too often seek to reward capital. Worker co-ops show us how we can reward work, cooperation, dignity. And I think that's a really critical model as we try to imagine solidarity economy through our capital. And finally, I think, what is an economy, right? We've used so many words around competition, around, there's such a zeitgeist around what the economy is. I think worker cooperatives have built for us a model of what the solidarity economy could look like as mainstream, as something that powers and mobilizes money, resources, talent, hope in our communities.
Thank you. Ricardo, you're next.
So the worker co-op model is fundamentally about economic empowerment, especially for underserved communities. At CACA, we provide a free training where participants graduate with home health aid certifications, and over the past 40 years, thousands of New York residents have taken advantage of our program, and we're very proud of that. Many of who have actually upgraded to CNAs, nurses, and we provide quality care through quality jobs, jobs which are often overlooked. We ensure that decisions within our organizations are made with home care worker in the sense of all our decisions.
Thanks. And Anju.
So I think what's valuable about programs like WCBDI and worker cooperative business development is creating an idea of an economy that's not zero sum, where it's not about there being, for every winner, there must be an equal loser, but rather that through cooperation, there is an opportunity to build better and to build forward. Quick anecdote, I was on the train today and happened to read an article in The Economist about the current American mindset, a cultural mindset being very centered on this idea of zero sum. And that perhaps, if not explains, is an indicator of sort of the cultural and economic forces that are at play right now. And to speak to the earlier discussion about what does it mean to create a culture of cooperation and to create a culture of business that's socially responsible, thinking beyond that zero-sum element, thinking about business as not necessarily an antagonist of democracy, of an antagonist towards a more socially equitable world, but as a driver of it. And I think that what we're doing here in New York City with worker ownership that lends to a broader social and solidarity economy, whether it be through small things like a community garden to bigger things like social housing, it's creating that cultural moment and building that muscle to create this world that we're striving towards.
Thank you. So I think we're running out of time for any Q&A, but I would just like to close it out to say thank you to all of our panelists for sharing all of the examples of how not only the Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative in New York City has supported development of worker cooperatives, but also has contributed to a larger ecosystem that promotes the economic well-being of many communities across the city. I hope that what you heard today was a good example of different lessons that you can take to your own municipalities. And if you have any more information, if you want any more information, please feel free to reach out to us. And we're happy to have a conversation about what we've learned over the past 10 years. Thank you for our hosts, and thank you. Have a good day.
In the interest of time, please remain in your seats unless you have to leave the room. And I will, without a transition, I will give the floor to, and thank you first of all, both moderators and panelists of the two panels. And I would like now to invite João Martins of the National Union of Family Farming and Solidarity Economic Cooperatives of Brazil to deliver his intervention on a very interesting example currently developing in Brazil. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Papadakis. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great honor and profound sense of responsibility that I take the floor today on behalf of the National Union of Family Farming and Solidarity Economy Cooperatives, UNICAFES. Founded in 2005, UNICAFES represents a nationwide network of more than 1,500 cooperatives, uniting over 1 million family farmers across every region of our country. These cooperatives are powerful engines of inclusion, democracy, and sustainability, offering concrete answers to some of the most pressing global challenges we collectively face. In a context marked by climate emergencies, food insecurity, economic instability, and deepening social inequalities, cooperatives stand out as resilient, inclusive, community-rooted solutions. And in Brazil, this is especially evident through the strength of family farming. Family farming is responsible for producing over 70% of everything that Brazil produces in food. It sustains livelihoods, safeguards biodiversity, and revitalizes rural economies. Through their cooperatives, these farmers gain access to market, public procurement infrastructure, financial services, and participatory governance, enabling real and lasting change in their territories. In 2024, UNICAFES undertook a comprehensive sustainability survey to access the contributions of our affiliated cooperatives to the 2030 agenda. The results are both encouraging and inspiring. 82% of cooperatives operated under agroecological or environmentally sustainable systems. 68% promote gender equality through women's participation in decision-making spaces. 61 engage youth through succession planning and leadership development. 55 are involved in climate action, including renewable energy, forest restoration, and carbon credit generation. And 91% directly combat poverty and hunger in their communities. These are not abstract figures. They represent lives transformed, territory strength, and community and commitment fulfilled. They illustrate how cooperatives are already working in tangible and measurable ways to advance sustainable development goals. This year, as we celebrate the International Year of Cooperatives and the 20th anniversary of UNICAFES, we are also preparing to actively contribute to COP30, to be held in the Brazilian Amazon. UNICAF is mobilizing cooperatives across the country to present their climate innovations and to ensure that family farming is recognized as a vital actor in the transition to low carbon, socially just economies. We believe cooperatives must be at the heart of the Pact for the Future and central to the deliberations of the Second World Summit for Social Development, not as passive, resilient of aid, but as co-creators of development models rooted in solidarity, equity, and collective well-being. As Secretary General Antonio Guterres has affirmed, cooperatives demonstrate the importance of standing together to forge solutions to global challenges. It is in this spirit that UNICAF reaffirms its commitments to international cooperation as its readiness to contribute to multilateral processes that advance a more just and sustainable world. We are deeply grateful for the opportunity to share our experiences here today, and we extend our hand to all present governments, UN agencies, civil society, and fellow cooperatives as partners in this vital journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Martins, for your statement, which made it clear that family farming cooperatives and the social and solidarity economy are central to climate resilience, food security, and just transitions. All very important results and principles in the lead up to the pivotal climate summit later this year in Brazil. Instead of me making a closing statement, I would like to give the floor to the participants of this. I'm sure you have many questions. Please keep your questions as short as possible, and please, the panelists from the two panels, feel free to take the floor and address these questions. Thank you. No pressing question for the moment. Yes, yes, please. Thank you. Please present yourself also.
I got a simple question. Can you explain a little bit about WCBDI, what they're doing for the cooperative? And two?
Sure, I can start. But yeah, so WCBDI, we support the development of cooperatives through supporting 13 organizations that are doing that work on the ground. So that includes helping to incubate cooperatives through different models, helping to actually convert convert traditional businesses to worker-owned businesses, and then also a number of different supportive services and educational services that will contribute to the growth and the launching of those cooperatives as well. I don't know if anyone else wants to add anything.
Sure, I can speak a little bit more to what we do at Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative. So the organizations are they're NGOs that are contracted through the city, receiving funding through New York City Council every year since fiscal year 15. So that was starting in July of 2014. What this allows the NGOs to do is provide what would otherwise be pretty costly business services, whether it's financing, marketing, the consulting that is necessary to create and build a business, to be done all for free. So for example, with transitioning businesses, converting businesses through owner to owners, these businesses that are interested in becoming worker-owned businesses where the current owners are looking to retire, they're able to get technical assistance services that are valued at up to like $20,000, I think. All for free through the city. And this is really valuable because not a lot of people know about worker cooperative businesses. It seems very exotic. It seems very strange. A lot of business owners that we talk to have never even thought about selling to their employees. And then with workers who are learning about, like new entrepreneurs learning about worker cooperative businesses, they have a lot of questions. There is at times like some suspicion because they might be familiar with, a traditional, I own my own business and I have employees, but but what if I own a business with other people? Is that going to start, are we going to start trouble here? Like, what's going on? So a lot of the work that we do is education, in addition to that technical assistance. And it's something that, thanks to the city and city council funding, we've been able to do free of charge for the last 11 years, which is a major reason why New York City has now become the largest worker cooperative business ecosystem in the U.S., surpassing San Francisco, I believe, in the last 3 years. Thank you, Clara.
Thank you. Any other questions, please? We have first a gentleman and then here.
Sure. Is this on? There we go. My name is Esteban Kelly. I'm the Executive Director for the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops. I'm also representing the U.S. on the board of COPA, which is the International Co-op Association embedded in the ICA. Well, our CEO would be upset if I didn't mention that I'm also the immediate past chair for the National Cooperative Business Association, so the credit unions are part of that membership as well. My question is about just, it seems to me like the inroads around partnership with government, that there's a lot of lessons there. But it also seems like there's a lot of opportunity as everyone is rethinking what public-private partnerships can look like. A lot of opportunity for cooperatives to build partnerships with other sectors, not just the government, but with philanthropy, with research institutions, with labor unions, traditional organized labor, and other civil society institutions. I'm wondering what some of your thoughts are. Obviously, the panel was focused on New York, but our conversation and our frame is both national and global, and translocal as well. So I'm interested in what some of your thoughts are about the opportunities for how to unlock these new kinds of partnerships, not just in the abstract, but really thinking about the political moment that we're in now and the specific historical opportunity we have sort of looking forward to reboot this, particularly around worker ownership.
Thank you. Let's collect one or more two questions before giving you the floor, and we'll have only 2 or 3 minutes to reply.
My name is Andres Bernal. I'm a professor at the CUNY School of Labor and Urban Studies. We have a certificate program in cooperative ownership there. Similar to Esteban's question, I'm interested in kind of collaborations between national governments and local efforts and municipal governments. In particular, one of the presenters online mentioned innovative policies with the Central Bank of Brazil. So I'm really curious about expanding that a little bit. And then to the rest of the panelists, what kind of innovative policies would you like to see if we were to win back electoral power? I know conditions are not quite ideal at the moment, but it gives us something to organize towards. And if we were to do that and hope to move beyond cooperatives being a niche thing and build more of it as being a central part of a sustainable economy, what kind of policies would you like to see?
Thank you. Very relevant, both of the questions. Please take the floor, and the panelists also from the previous panels. If
I'll be happy to maybe start, and this is a very big and exciting conversation. I think this is me speaking more personally in some of what we've learned in New York City. I think, how do we think about each sector of a policy area? So for example, healthcare right now, we've just, in New York State, for example, and this is from a federal mandate here in the US, shifted how funding moves. And we selected one private contractor here in New York, and we missed the mark to make that cooperative and make that worker-owned. States like Washington have centered worker ownership in a unique model, very much inspired by CHCA and one of our WCBI partners, ICA Group. To me, that's some of the example of where we can take what we know about worker co-ops, centering the core principles, the 7 core values of co-ops, and think about how to move a whole sector. That's the first one that comes to mind. The only other one that's really coming to mind is, I take a lot from, at least in the US, how we think about affordable housing policy and the tools that policy has used. I think there should be more cooperative housing. And I think we can think about some of those tools when it comes to our public financing tools for worker cooperatives, real estate, right? How do we think about some of the ways policy isn't a barrier, which quite frankly, too often it is, but policy is an accelerant to worker co-ops.
Yeah, I think I would echo what Christine is saying, but when it comes to public-private partnerships, I think of course, it's finding what strategically makes sense, and identifying certain industries where there's going to be a potentially lower-hanging fruit way to make it work for that industry. I think that's a good way to start. But I think an example from, I think WCBDI has been a really good example of how it's also much more of a grassroots effort. So I think municipalities should identify ways to partner with whatever grassroots efforts are actually happening around worker ownership, and identifying ways that they can either partner with them, fund them if they can, or find different avenues to elevate them to spread that across different communities in their municipalities.
Thank you very much. It's time to conclude. As we bring this session to a close, I would like to say, however, a few words without endeavoring to summarize the very rich and inspiring experiences you have presented. Allow me to just to offer a few reflections on what we have heard throughout this morning. Our first panel, led by the United Nations Federal Credit Union and members of the United in Sustainable Living Network, brought to light the impact of financial cooperatives, especially at the local, the community level. From Dublin to Vancouver to Costa Rica, we heard how credit unions are putting values into action, building financial inclusion, promoting community resilience, and investing in inclusive growth. Localizing the SDGs, as one panelist mentioned. Our second panel, moderated by the New York City Department of Small Business Services, reminded us that local governments have a critical role to play in shaping ecosystems where cooperatives can thrive. The experience of the New York City Worker Cooperative Business Development Initiative shows, and other initiatives presented here show that what is possible when municipal policy aligns with principles of social justice, and when investing in the business and the community does not mean winner taking all or a zero-sum economy, as I mentioned. So those are core principles promoted by the Sustainable Development goals, but also by the Copenhagen Declaration and Program of Action adopted some 30 years ago, and hopefully by the outcome of the next World Social Summit. And finally, we heard also the very important example of Brazil and the National Union of Family Farming and Solidarity Economic Cooperatives of Brazil, an experience which highlights the nexus between cooperativism, climate resilience, and sustainable food systems. So across all these interventions, the main takeaway I personally take is that when there is an enabling environment, a political will, legal and financial safeguards, and a commitment to the collective good and solidarity, cooperatives are not just responding to challenges, they can also deliver results that are inclusive, democratic, and sustainable, and can constitute an alternative model to the business and economic models that currently dominate our societies. So now let me end by thanking all the speakers, moderators, organizers, and participants, both in the room and online, for making this event a meaningful celebration of the International Day of Cooperatives. And a special thank also to Andrew Alimandi, who will be the chair of COPAC for the remaining few months this year. Again, thank you all, and let's applaud all the participants and all the speakers. Have a nice rest of the day. Bye.